On today's Digital Investor podcast, we have a very special guest and topic because today what we want to talk about is retirement and in particular financial independence or financial freedom in retirement and how reskilling in digital can get you there. And we've got the perfect person to talk about this, one of our very own coaches here at eBusiness Institute, one of our most successful students ever at eBusiness Institute. Lucy, welcome to today's podcast.
Thank you, Matt. It is absolutely wonderful to be here, and it's lovely to be back chatting to you again. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this is such an important topic. And Lucy, thanks for, coming on the podcast today. As you know, you and I and Liz, all of us here at eBusiness, this is something we're very passionate about because we see a lot of people heading into retirement and they're looking for financial independence and freedom. And it's something that you're passionate about as well because you've gone that path and you've found financial independence. But also, if you're listening to this podcast, Lucy and I want to be talking to you 50-year-olds who should be thinking about retirement somewhere in the next 10 to 15 years and setting up now for the future, because that's what we do here at eBusiness Institute. It is all about future-proofing your life and your income. And so this is a unique opportunity. If you're new to this podcast, we're all about buying and selling online businesses, renovating online businesses, and basically generating income through the online world, which means we can work from home anywhere in the world 24/7 and at any age. You can start at any age. And Lucy and I know already what you're probably worried about if you're new to this is you've probably got lots of fears around this. I don't have the knowledge. What I want you to do is listen to Lucy's story. So let's start out with that, Lucy, because once upon a time, you were in those shoes, weren't you? How long ago did you start with us? Well, let's start with your story because you've been incredibly successful with it.
Yeah, well, in 2014, we were still reeling from the GFC. We had an importing manufacturing company, and we were really suffering from that. And we could sort of start to see the writing on the wall. This was a business it was a big business. It was, multi-million-dollar company. We were thinking, nice, comfortable retirement when the time comes.
Yep.
This is it. We had our path, all worked out. And then the GFC really impacted us. It was significant to the point where we had literally got to the point when we first met you guys, I had thought, okay, I'll go try something to help. And at the time, for all sorts of reasons, very passionate about a particular lifestyle with food. Had one of those entrepreneurial moments and went, let's open a cafe. Never been in hospitality. So we had a failing importing manufacturing company over here, trying to replace the income in an industry I had no experience in. So we were kind of in this, what are we doing? What are we going to do? We are what we call the sandwich generation. We were still supporting kids at uni. We were still supporting parents with their housing and so on. And we were really in trouble. We really were. The bottom line was we got to the point we were virtually drawing no income. We were paying, making sure our staff got their pay and so on. That was literally all we were able to do. When we met you guys, we were like, we've got to do something. I wouldn't say we were panicked, but we were getting very, very concerned. We were literally going down the path of exploring what bankruptcy meant. That was how serious it had got. Okay. So, and then we met you guys. So, big change. Thank goodness.
What are the chances that you meet us? Our specialty, Liz and I, is import wholesale manufacturing businesses. So for those of you that have heard Lucy's story, what you may not know, and we're revealing it now, one of the big things that I was able to help Lucy and Gary with in the early days was an effective way to exit that significant business without going through bankruptcy. Been there, done that many a time before for lots of clients. And happy to say that worked very nicely, didn't it?
It really did, honestly.
To this day, I think the four of us are it is nice to get together to celebrate. Just that alone is life-changing. But I think, Lucy, what's important is, so there's that side of the story that was life-changing for you, that's an exit of an old-fashioned business and moving into the new online space. You and Gary just took to it. And I guess now listening to you, see, I didn't realize that if you're listening to this, I didn't realize that Lucy and Gary were at the panic level. I was just cool, calm, helping them do their thing. And I'm saying, you do this, you do that. And the guys followed exactly what we said to do, particularly when it came to online businesses.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize, one of the big motivations was, you were nearly busted, or the panic moment.
Yeah.
But what happened with the online space for you? Why did it go so well? Because it did, just if you listen to this, it went exceptionally well. Wait till you hear what the results were.
Look, I think the main thing for Gary and I at the time was it was a total commitment. I can remember sitting in a conference someone had invited me to, and you guys were speaking.
Yep.
The break came, I went outside, I rang Gary, I said, you've got to meet these guys. You're going to love this. His background is accountancy, but he was the financial controller for the company, and he's all about the numbers and the statistics. And that was what I was hearing. It's like, he used spreadsheets. I did emails, online banking. We really didn't have any online understanding. And my son-in-law at the time had built a very rudimentary website for my cafe, very basic stuff. We had no understanding. But for whatever reason, what you guys were saying, and I think it was when you were talking about your background, your experience, I went, they did it. They transitioned. We're not stupid. We could learn this. I don't know. I didn't even know what it really meant at the time, but I just went, we've got to do something. And you were also talking about not needing massive startup costs, which being in importing manufacturing for us, we had so much money tied up in stock, staff, reps, cars, the whole lot. It was the thought of going into another business was so scary. And then you and Liz are saying, hey, guys, there's an easier way. And I immediately went, you got my attention.
Startup costs. And so for you, your first strategy with us was what that you did?
Well, we kind of had to jump in the deep end, and am I allowed to say that we took some of Gary's super and we just went, well, we're going to go in and at the time you were teaching about buying and renovating websites.
Yep.
You were teaching where to find these websites. You were teaching in a really, it was such a beautiful, simple way, step by step by step, which is why we followed it to the letter. If we followed your system, we could learn step by step how to renovate those websites and get them producing, if not more money, get to start making money. And we did go in probably a little bit more aggressively than some would need to, because we needed to make money. So we bought websites that were making money and renovated them.
So here's where I'm going to step in, Lucy. There is one important thing. You're saying you went in a bit aggressively. Please, if you're listening to this, be really careful.
Yes.
There was one significant thing. I actually did not allow Lucy and Gary to go too aggressive because I didn't know what was going on in the background at the time.
You weren't going to let me get away with that one.
This is exciting to me all these years later. It's literally 10 years later, Lucy, that we're recording this. It's 2024 now that we're recording this. I didn't know what was going on in the background. And I was saying, like I said, if you listen to all our podcasts, we always say, learn first, start out small and safe. So what did I get you? When you're saying you went aggressively, please don't think this was a get-rich-quick thing and it got Lucy and Gary out of jail for free real quick or anything like that.
No.
How long did it take? What did Matt do, especially to poor old Gary? Now it makes even more sense why he was a little bit upset at me for quite a long time.
Let me at it. He wanted to do it. We really wanted to go in hard. We wanted to buy big websites that were making money. We could see the potential, and we trusted you guys. We'd already worked out you guys were the real deal, decent people. And you just kept saying to us, no, don't. And it was such wise words, because we could have blown everything. You just kept saying, no, guys, slow down. You don't have to go in guns blazing. Just slow down, buy a few small ones. And we were literally buying $200 websites. Yep. Thank God we did, because we broke them. We learned on them. And learning means making mistakes. And we made those mistakes on $200 websites instead of $20,000, $50,000 websites, which would have destroyed us.
And now when you think about it, if you're listening, this is really important. What Lucy and Gary did in hindsight is very smart, because you can hear from the real story behind these guys. They could ill afford to have another business mistake. And so that's what Liz and I are about, and all of us here about. And if you're listening to this, this is not a time in society with economics the way the financial system the way it is to be, in my opinion, you should not be out there taking massive, stupid financial risks. Remember, this podcast today is particularly for those of you who are approaching retirement. It is a particularly dangerous time of your life to be taking on big debts, doing dumb things with your money that you don't understand. For goodness, I'm being a mentor, not your mother here. Just being super blunt about it, like I was with you and Gary at the time. Learn first, because you can. You didn't have to risk a lot. You could afford to get through that first year. Would you say it was
absolutely, yeah.
Took you about the first year, didn't it, to get through it all, to get the knowledge that you needed?
Yes.
Tell us then what happened. So at the end of that first year with us, I believe you guys signed on again, which is great.
Straight away.
And then what happened in the next year?
Well, I think for Gary and I, we treated it almost like a university degree. So we were not going to miss the second year. We just jumped straight in. Because despite the fact that your course content is technically the same, you guys have really got your finger on the pulse and you update things. So every year is a new learning involved in it. But we behaved ourselves the first year. And I think by about I can't remember the exact numbers now, but I think by about month 11, we had our first $1,000 month income-wise. And we were excited because as much as anything, we sort of went, because people do hear these back then anyway, it's like 10 years ago, it's like, oh, online is a get rich quick scheme. It's not real. So to have that proof, and we were sitting there going, if we can make 1,000, we can make 10,000. If we can make 10,000, maybe we could make 100,000. And we actually hit that goal at around month 18. So that was very exciting.
This is well done, Lucy. This is really cool, really, really important. Lucy and I take this stuff for granted. For our listeners, when Lucy's talking these numbers, they are net and they are per month. So you're saying you hit your first $1,000 month, somewhere in the next 18 months, you hit $100,000 months.
Yes.
And
it then started just to snowball. Our skills started to snowball, and the opportunities, the way we saw things shifted. It was a bit like being first year medical student is vastly different to someone who's been practicing for 5 years. We see things very differently now. We see opportunities. And even back then, I can remember sitting in the second year of your 3-day, now I think it's now a 2-day event, your summit, and thinking, oh my God, I understand this stuff now.
Yeah.
The way those skills build, the way you structured them was just so helpful for us because we didn't have a background. We didn't understand what it meant. We didn't even know really what a domain name was, So that's how basic our skills were. We knew what a website was.
It is mind-blowing, isn't it? You just 10 years later, I'm so glad we're recording it. Isn't it funny how the universe works? You and I are chatting about this. It's something and so if you're listening, it's the reason Lucy and I decided this podcast, it wasn't to do a 10-year reunion update. It was actually because Lucy is very concerned, as we are, about fellow retiree friends not being financially independent and not having the skills to do this. Let's just pinch ourselves both, and any listeners, over this 10 years, you're heading into retirement with $10,000 months, $20,000 months, around Christmas, $100,000 months. We're talking making significant money, no need for a pension. That's your retirement from almost going bankrupt and running a cafe, which, as we know, I can say this, running cafes is crappy. It's 5 to 9. You work your butt out, don't care where it is. Now your lifestyle, you're working from home, you're on beautiful acreage up there in the hinterlands.
Yeah.
And it is mind-blowing. So Lucy, congratulations. And with Gary, you guys did follow the system, though. I will point that out. The guys bought very small websites. In the second year, they just started to step it up. They bought $3,000 websites, $5,000 websites. They bought a couple of $20,000 websites. I think that was a turning point when you bought that $20,000 one.
We bought a $20,000 one and then a $50,000 one. By then, we knew what we were doing. Yeah. And we still got your advice. So, we
I remember helping you with those. And that was a scary moment for my sake to let you guys, because I realized then, funds were important, like
Yeah.
you had to be very careful with your funds. I just had a
Yes.
sense, okay, these guys need to be a little bit careful here. Do I let them buy this $50,000 website? But hats off to you guys. And from those days, here's another mind-blowing thing. You've still got the same techie from those days, don't you?
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's
Yeah.
pretty much your team to this day, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just
yeah. I
one
hire
techie.
people sort of like through Upwork and so on as I need
Yep.
them. I have regulars I go to now for different things. One full-time techie in the Philippines. I've seen that he's a beautiful young guy. I've seen him through, his marriage, all his babies. He's a full-time stay-home dad, and he gets to work. We just put jobs up. He does them. He knows mine and Gary's weaknesses and compensates for those for us. And he knows what we need. He knows what our expectations are. And it's a beautiful working arrangement. He's a
I'm
great
just sitting
guy.
here. What an amazing retirement you have that is in such contrast. And of course, the favorite part of your retirement is working with us. I mean,
absolutely.
Like it doesn't get any better, does it? Working with our clients. Seriously, that is very satisfying, isn't it?
Coaching. I love it. I really do. I meet some beautiful people, some young people, some people my age, in middle. And I just love it. Everybody has different expectations, different interests, different skills. And I love getting to know them and helping them to, even if they don't want what Gary and I have done, because, I'd be lying if I said there were times when it was hard work. There were times when we were doing long days. It's still a business.
Yep.
But we were able to see the future. And I love being able to work with people, helping them do that. And I think that's one of the reasons this particularly is really important to me, because where we live, it is a great big retirement village. We live in an area where there are a lot of self-funded retirees, but that's not the luxurious life a lot of people imagine.
Yeah.
And when we talk with them, as you said at the beginning, there is a lot of, they're scared. They're scared about the future. And when we talk about what we do, they go, oh, well, I couldn't do that. It's not my skills. I don't understand. It's like, hey, this is our background. Yeah. And then we sort of try and explain to them that it's actually something, particularly as an oldie, that you can do. It's not just the young kids that have these skills. Gaz and I could probably talk most young techies under the table with what we know now, but we knew nothing when we began.
So you think about it. So if you're listening to this, you heard Lucy say there was a lot of hard work in the early days, and we're not saying you just magically roll into this semi-passive retirement and start earning, $100,000 months or anything like that. And it depends on your goals. But if you're listening to this, for goodness sake, be thinking, we know we have in our community, we have a lot of semi-retirees or early retirees, plus we have a lot of people in their 50s plus in Lucy and Gary's position 10 years ago with young kids, supporting parents, and you need to be planning now, and there is a way forward, and you can see an outcome here that Lucy and Gary have achieved. So for you guys now, so you are fully retired, and I'm presuming you don't work as hard as what you did before. So Gary's fully stepped back. Is that so?
Pretty much, I'll grab him and say, Gaz, can you look at this, do some SEO for me? And he'll get his laptop out, which is, dust the dust off it. And, and he still loves it. That's sort of the data part of his brain. He loves SEO still. I don't think you could ever shut him up about that one. But most of the time we're on 40 acres. He plays outside, gets the chainsaw out, scares the heck out of me, gets on his ride on. He's got a lovely lifestyle now, which was not the way it was going to be at all. And it's just really nice. And then I have a few websites, I have a few clients that I love working with in different areas. Yeah. And I work with your clients, and it's
working with our
I probably do. My average week is probably 10 hours, sometimes 20, depending on what I'm working on. But
okay, this is
so I'm semi-retired. I'm a bit younger than Gaz, so I'll keep going for a bit longer.
That's right.
But honestly, Matt, it doesn't feel like work. So retirement in itself is a very, very different meaning for me. I was telling you before we got started, I was I caught up with some friends recently, and they're a bit older than us. They're in their mid-70s, and they're only just now able to consider retiring at the end of the year, and they're exhausted, they're burnt out, they can't wait to retire. And yeah, I was chatting to her and she was saying, so when are you guys, or when are you, because Gary pretty much has, when are you going to retire? I said, well, I actually don't feel like I work. I could just do this forever. I mean, I don't want to be that old lady that's sitting there doing crosswords. I want to be that old lady that's sitting there building websites and having fun getting them ranked and all that stuff, So it's a very different definition, but I just wish, all the people that live in our area could, do the same thing. And
one of the things you mentioned to me, like coming back to this idea of actual, so you've got a lot of friends now who are retirees. You live in a community like that. What are you saying to them? Because one thing you mentioned to me, actually, I'll start with this that surprised me. You're finding a lot of your friends don't want to be on a pension or even do the grey nomad thing. They don't want to downsize and sell up. They want to live well, like they're high income earners at some point, and they want that financial independence. And tell us that crazy rule too when you're in these rural areas here. So we're here in Australia. Listen to this if you're in America. What's the crazy rule we have here in Australia?
Well, we live in a farming community, and most of us live on large acreage. And in Queensland, I don't know if it's Australia-wide, but in Queensland, you actually can't get the government pension if you live on more than 5 acres, which is our whole 5-kilometre street here. There is no acreage here. We've got one of the smaller ones at 40 acres. And some of these people, they're living on land that is either generational or they bought when they were much younger and wanted just the space and to get out. And now they're faced with the fact they're retired teachers or farmers, and their land, they're not primary producers. They just like being on land. They can't get the pension. So they have to sell, or as the case with one of the people on the street, they ended up having to subdivide. So they only ended up with 5 acres, which seems ridiculous. It's a rule I don't understand, but it is what it is. And I'm just very grateful we will never, ever need the government pension because of what we have. So
it's something to think about. Check the laws in your state, no matter where you are, when you come to retirement age. If you're planning of, living on your acreage, not that if you listen to this podcast, you shouldn't be thinking about drawing a pension anyway. You're going to make, I'd like to think that everyone that's online makes enough money that they don't need a pension and you'll be self-funded. So with all the friends that you're speaking to, what do you say to them? Like this reskilling, obviously to people like me and you, it's obvious what retirees should be doing. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast today is back up 10 years from your retirement date and start training for it now. That would be my advice. What are you saying or what are the discussions you're having, because you're on the ground there with retirees, as we are with our clients. We work with a lot of them, but you're working with people who don't even know this world exists. What's it like when you talk to them about what you do?
We might go into town, take the dogs to the dog park after we've done some shopping or something, and we'll get chatting to people. And we basically, if we don't know the people, we get chatting about what we do, and we tend to say, look, we buy and renovate online businesses, websites, and what's that? And we elaborate a bit more, and then you can see their faces go, I could never do that. It's like you actually can. They have no understanding of how simple it is. And I was sharing with you how quite often younger people are a bit patronising with, us oldies, It's like, oh, good for you keeping up with technology, And I do get a bit obnoxious and lay it on a bit thick about what I know.
And Lucy, it must be a nice feeling when you hear those young people say comments like that. You're probably sitting there going, you know what? I make more money than you do sitting at home.
I make more in a month than you do in a year.
Working at home with one staff member, no stress, working 10 hours a week. And it's kind of amusing, isn't it?
It's exactly it.
And it's something we've noticed in our community. I've had clients feed that back to me. Once you get to a certain age, it's very difficult to get jobs again or senior roles. They get passed over. And like you said, there's this thing around older people can't learn how to reskill with digital. You and Gary, woohoo!
Yeah. I mean, gosh, Gary was, he was almost retirement age when we met you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's I think the really interesting thing about it is we're also talking about people that actually have a bit more time on their hands. They're not the young ones raising a family, full-time jobs, trying to squeeze this in. The amount of times I speak to your clients and it's 9 o'clock at night before they can open their laptop. Whereas my friends, they get up, they have their morning coffee, go for a walk, then they've basically got all day. They could be learning these skills. And I honestly wish I could give people a glimpse into the process of actually how simple it is if you follow your step-by-step process. And I don't mean to sound like I'm plugging your course here, but I am, because it's given us so much in our lives. It's not hard. You just have to be prepared to reskill. Let go of your thing that says, I can't learn. Of course you can. Good grief, we can all learn new things.
Yeah, at any age. And so, Lucy, just tell them to do our free masterclass. If you're listening to this and haven't done our free masterclass, go and do it. Like, you'll see Lucy and Gary on there. So you'll see that. You'll
Can't get rid of us.
Yeah, you'll see but you'll see the sorts of sites that we buy and how easy it is. Well, easy in inverted commas. The ones you compared to bricks and mortar business. And I do want to reiterate something to anyone listening here. Please, I think the big take home point from here is you can get into this at a later stage in life and at a younger stage in life for that matter without massive financial risk if you're smart. Don't rush out there and buy like Lucy and Gary wanted to. They wanted to spend the 6 figures on their first websites. I did not let them. If you're listening to this, I'm not letting you either until you've got the knowledge under your belt. Because really what Liz and I see and what we've noticed over the years, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, Lucy, now that you're coaching our clients as well, the main risk in this is actually knowledge risk.
Yeah.
I think that's it. You just got to learn off someone, whether or not it's us, doesn't matter. And something else you said that's really big is, and you and I both want to reiterate to this one for everyone listening, is get over the fear. Yeah. And that's something that you and I are very passionate about because everyone knows our story. We put this off, would you believe? We saw the opportunity here 2 years before we even started, but we had the same fears that everyone else does. Well, because we're from the country, we didn't know how to do coding and stuff. Back in those days, you had to code websites. And so we know what it's like, guys. If you're listening to this, it is scary. And to this day, I'm still scared of hitting, the update, the publish button and things like that. And I will kill websites and it's really scary, but you've got to get over the fear. And that's what an entrepreneur does. And I understand too, there's this identity thing. As you get into your 60s, you're thinking, I couldn't be an entrepreneur. Well, that's total BS as well. How many billionaires are there who are 60 plus? That's when most people make their billions, is later in life. So if you've got an entrepreneurial spark, I'm hoping this podcast today has kind of made you realize, hey, if I'm in that 50 plus age group, it is worth getting the knowledge skills here and going forward. And so, Lucy, I want to say a massive, big thank you for you coming along today to give us some insights into the real background of what happened 10 years ago when you met us. But I think it's so inspirational for our community you've changed a lot of lives in our community over that 10 years by you and Gary regularly getting up on our stages when we used to run live events and talking about, your progress, what you were doing and at our boot camps. And now where you're helping, with the coaching and working with so many of our clients who, just look up to you for inspiration because you've done it. And hopefully you're telling them, just follow what Matt and Liz say. It works. Start small.
Pretty much it.
Build up big and have fun with it. But thank you so much for coming along today.
Oh, my absolute pleasure, Matt. Thank you.